Good morning, everyone. Welcome to the Center for Creativity. My name is Anina Collier. I'm the Dean of the Center for Creativity. I apologize to those of you who are going to hear my spiel twice today, but we do have some new faces for the archive workshop. And we're so happy you're here, whether in person or online on our live stream. Welcome to the kickoff of the Fall I Can't workshop. This is our 10th anniversary, and we're just so proud and excited of the way this series has grown over the years. Probably, as most of you know, we are now strongly encouraging registration. If you register online before the workshop, you're guaranteed a spot. If you forget or you don't have time, you're still welcome to attend, and we'll do our best to accommodate you as far as supplies. Some of the visual arts workshops are already almost full, so if you haven't yet registered and you've got your eye on them, I bet they'll be full by Monday, so definitely go online and register this weekend if you can at centerforcreativitytulsa.com. I forgot to mention earlier the artwork that you see right now on the wall. It's called Please Touch the Art, and it's exactly what it sounds like. Every single piece can be experienced through touch, and we also have works that incorporate sound, scent, and taste, so it engages all five senses. It has a special focus on visitors who are blind or visually impaired, so be sure to check that out on the way out. And did I say artists? About 30% of the artists in this exhibition identify as blind, visually impaired, or disabled. So before I turn it over to our wonderful partner, I want to make sure that everyone here knows about Tulsa Achieves. This is 2 years of free college for anyone who lives in Tulsa County and graduates from a public, private, or home school with at least a 2.0 GPA. And I should say you can't take a gap year, you have to go straight into college, and you do have to be a U.S. citizen, but if you are a green card holder, there's another option for you. This is an amazing program that allows you to get an associate's degree debt-free. And you're probably thinking, what's the catch? There is no catch. It's exactly what it sounds like. It's a national model for providing free higher education. So if you have a young person in your life, or if you are a young person, be sure to pick one of these up. They're on that table over there on your way out the door, and help everyone know that this opportunity exists. All right, I am excited about this workshop. We've been talking a little bit. The number one question I've gotten about the series is, what is archive? And by the end of this, you will know exactly what it is. Our partner today is the Tulsa Foundation for Architecture. They do all kinds of wonderful tours and education that you'll hear about towards the end of the workshop. But please help me welcome our instructor today, Melinda Blank, an archivist with the Tulsa Foundation for Architecture. Welcome, Melinda.
Thank you. Good morning. Good morning. Can you all hear me? You can't hear me.
It needs to be close to your mouth.
Oh, man. Like that? Okay. Hi. My name is Melinda Blank. I'm the archivist for the Tulsa Foundation for Architecture. I think a lot of people know us for our programming, specifically for our tunnel tours, but we are a 501c3 nonprofit here in Tulsa. What most people don't know is that not only do we champion the art of good design and architecture, we do that through education and programming, but we also do that through our archival collection. We have about a 60,000 piece archival collection of architectural drawings, blueprints, photographs, even artifacts from buildings that have been demolished, all in our building. We are currently putting that exhibition, or that collection, online for everyone to research from their own homes. So that's my goal this year, to get everybody to know about our awesome archive. So we're here to talk about archives, which is to preserve objects to ensure their longevity. We'll specifically be talking about paper and photographs today, but I'm happy to answer any questions you have about clothing, textile, artifacts, other things like that. One thing I do want to note is that I am not a conservator. So an archivist is really focused on the preservation of an object. How do we house it? What's the best materials to use to ensure that its life is going to live forever? A conservator is someone who fixes something once damage has been done to it. It's the best way to put it. So every time I do these workshops, somebody inevitably shows up with a photo album that's been in a flood. I will cry with you, but I don't know how to fix it. So we'll just start there. One other note I want to say is I will probably use the word value a lot, and I mean that in every sense of the word. Whether you have a collection at home or an object at home that has value to you, that can be monetary, that can be sentimental, it can be a family heirloom. So anytime I use the word value, I'm not talking about just its appraisal value. I'm talking about what it means to you. In front of you, I've given out a questionnaire. It's basically just a way to start when you think about the things in your home, the things that are important to you, the things that you want to invest in preserving. This is a good way to get your mind going. Think about the object or collection. It can be an individual piece or multiple. Think about its past. Think about why it's relevant to you. Does it have memories to you? Is it something your grandmother gave you? Is it something you found in your own lifetime that you want to pass on? I think a lot of times when we think about things, we think about them right now in the present. Archiving is really focused on taking things from now or the past and thinking about their future. So when you're thinking about these objects, don't think about just the value they hold now, but also think about what does their future life look like? Where do you want this piece to go when it's no longer in your possession? And how are we going to get it there? So that's the kind of stuff we're going to talk about today, is very basic. Almost some of it is a little common sense, but it's all good, relevant information. So it's going to give you a guideline for how to ensure those pieces that matter to you can live for a long time. So on top of that questionnaire, we also have this great handout that I created for you guys, and we're just going to kind of go through it. I have a lot of examples here of supplies and all of that kind of thing. Archiving can be a beast. It can be very expensive, and it can be very time-consuming. I always explain there's like the best practices, there's what you learn in school and college, and then there's getting that first job and realizing, oh, we don't have enough money, time, space, or people to actually make that happen. How do we do the best we can with what we have? So hopefully I'll give you some hacks today where you're not going to have to spend $1,000, where you can find very reliable and very affordable supplies to help you get through what you need. So let's begin. First thing, create a plan. When I went into the archive at TFA, 60,000 items that hadn't really been looked at or cared for full time in 10 years. So I call it triage. I went in, and the first thing I said is there anything in here that is going to cause immediate damage? Is there molding on anything? Is there bug infestation on anything? Is there anything that I need to isolate from everything else? Is it going to cause damage? So that's kind of the first thing. If you have anything in that shoebox of photos or whatever that you think is potentially hazardous and potentially going to cause damage to something else, isolate it. Get it out of there. The next thing is really thinking about what's valuable to you. If you have a massive collection and you don't know where to start, break it down in stages. If I can only spend $100, if I can only save 10 things, what are those top 10 things? And then slowly break it down like that. So you almost make, not that everything is valuable and everything is important, not that one is better than the other, but if you have to prioritize, what would that look like? And then you need to find a safe, secure space. So in the museum world, our ideals are temperature between 60 and 70 degrees. That's why every archivist and museum professional you know has a sweater on their chair at their desk, because we're always cold. And relative humidity needs to be within 30 to 40%. I know we live in Tulsa. I'm sweating right now. You guys are a great crowd. But it's difficult to find those ideal conditions. You don't have to have it that ideal, but you do want somewhere that's dry, that water and moisture are not going to get in, that's cool, so not your attic. Even if your attic is insulated, maybe if it's amazing, you can keep it up there, but really try to avoid your attic or your basement. You want somewhere that has genuine temperature control. And that's because any moisture, even humidity, can cause mold. It doesn't have to just be a flood. And temperature is really, really important. I'll give you an example here. This is a binder of slides that's in those plastic holders that I'm sure we all have seen before. This got so hot just by being in an attic that every page is stuck together. So that's just because it wasn't in the proper temperature. So temperature and humidity are one of the most important things you think about when you think about storing your collection. Also consider if you don't have space or the right conditions in your home, offsite is an option. There's a lot of temperature-controlled storage units out there, or even a safety deposit box that you can keep your stuff in if you don't have the ideal conditions at home. Let's see. Oh yeah, light is also another huge issue. So wherever you're storing your stuff, you want to ensure that no light is hitting it directly. UV causes the most damage to paper. A little museum hack. All museums are going to tell you no flash photography because it is going to ruin the painting. It's a lie. They're really concerned about copyright. That's why you can't use flash photography. Now, if it's the Mona Lisa and it's like the most popular painting and it's just getting constant flash all day, yes, that will affect it. But the occasional flash on something isn't going to damage it. It's that continual UV light from the sun that's going to damage something. So cool, dry, and no light. Pests are an issue when it comes to archiving. It's not like the fun part. I'm not an exterminator. I don't enjoy that part of the job. But just be aware wherever you put something. I will tell you, I'll probably have 3 things I tell you are the most important thing. This is one of them. Cardboard is your enemy. Cardboard is your enemy. Don't use cardboard. Roaches love cardboard. Not only do they eat it, they're actually attracted to it. So you're kind of welcoming bugs to come eat your stuff if you put it in cardboard, which is awful because cardboard is so convenient, so easy to put our stuff in. I would recommend, though this is not ideal, I would absolutely recommend a plastic tub over cardboard any day of the week, especially since you're not keeping it where it's hot. So it's not going to off-gas because it's not going to have that heat factor. So when you're storing your stuff, truly anywhere except cardboard. Another thing that's really, really important that I think a lot of people don't think about is metal is incredibly damaging to any paper over a period of time. Now, I'm aware. I gave you a handout with a staple. Okay, I'm a hypocrite, but we're not intending to save this forever. Any documents, any things you have like that, remove the paper clips, remove the staples, remove the rubber bands. All of that stuff is going to age poorly quicker than your paper. You're going to get rust spots. You're going to get indentions. Rubber bands actually harden up, and when they do that, they off-gas and they stain paper. So just remove that stuff while you're going through your collection. I know we all know our elementary school claw staple remover. No, don't use that one. Use this one. This one is called a magnetic staple remover. They're super cheap on Amazon, and it doesn't indent the paper when you take the staple out. It's way easier to use. You can remove the staple from the front and the back. This is a fantastic little tool. And one last thing, if you can, try to keep everything elevated off the ground, just like our food storage. We don't want it on the ground because of bugs, because of potential floods. So if you can keep it at least 2 inches above the ground on shelving, preferably metal shelving, that's ideal. Basic handling techniques, just be aware of what you're carrying, of what you're holding. I always say have a plan. I can't tell you, even though I teach this workshop and have taught interns for 10 years, I still fall guilty of it. If you could pick something up, know where you're going to put it and make sure there's a clear path. It's common sense, it sounds silly, but there are so many times when you can pick up something really, really delicate, go and then realize, oh, I didn't clear anything off that table. I have to go all the way back. The number one way to prevent damage is to limit handling. Unfortunately, people are probably one of the biggest dangers to any of our prized collections. So yeah, less damage, less handling. Okay, so I've kind of talked about the damages of archival materials. So the things you always want to look out for: light, humidity, pests, physical force. You know, we're not slamming it around, obvious stuff like that. The goal of this is to extend the life, right? So nothing's permanent, but we can get this. Everything's going to eventually deteriorate. But if we use the proper materials, well, it can at least extend its life. Let's talk about provenance that are. Okay, let's go over materials. So how many people have heard of acid-free? Yeah, all right, not bad. So it's literally what it sounds like. It's the pH balance within the paper, the object. Acid literally eats paper. So I'm sure we've all seen what newspaper can do, what glue can do to paper. So this was all white at one time, but because of this newspaper, on the other side of it, it's caused this level of damage. And this is just from sitting. This has not been exposed to light. This has been in a totally fine environment. It's just, especially newspaper, it's not made to last. It's true ephemera. So especially at this point where we have newspapers over 100 years old, they're going to deteriorate no matter what we can do. What we do, they're gonna cause damage and they're gonna look like this. That's why digitization is important. So this is acid, literal acid that's eating that paper. So when we buy our archival supplies, we're gonna try to buy acid-free. A lot of this stuff is blue or gray, looks like this. This is an acid-free box. And it will not off-gas. It doesn't have any material in it that's gonna eat the paper up. So these are great. They are really expensive. So there are a couple places you can order them, but I don't recommend. It's down here on your list. Gaylord Archivist Supplies, fantastic website, fantastic materials. Use it for research. Don't use it to actually purchase, and I'll tell you why. It's incredibly expensive, but it's also really geared towards commercial orders, so they don't ship through UPS. I'll be honest with you, I buy once a year from Gaylord for our archives. I didn't spend that much money. My shipping was $1,200. So don't buy from Gaylord. I didn't even buy that much. Their stuff's amazing, but for a personal collection, not the road I would go. Both Gaylord and University Products do have some stuff on Amazon. It's much cheaper. So, and you don't have to pay for that ridiculous shipping. So get on those websites, look at the materials they have. They have a lot of great recommendations, probably specifically geared to what you are looking to preserve, and then get on Amazon and see if it's on there. There's another great site called Talus. They're a family-based company in New York, and they have really good products for reasonable prices. If you can't afford the really expensive archival boxes, don't worry about it. Anything that's clean, anything that's not cardboard is gonna be better. If you have an intention to just preserve this stuff, you don't have to have the most expensive supplies. Just doing the best you can to keep it clean, keep it organized, it's going to be better than in that cardboard box in your garage. It's kind of like the cobbler's kid doesn't have shoes. Like I teach the workshop, I still have cardboard too, it's fine, good. Let's see. Okay, so additional supplies. These boxes come in all sorts of shapes. This is a filing box. This is great for photographs. You just put your photographs within file folder, put it in here. Make sure that they're not bent. If you only have this like half full, I suggest putting tissue paper in the front to ensure that everything stays straight. But these boxes come in all sizes, from huge to small, so anything you need, and they're good for everything. Textiles, clothes, objects, wood, metal, anything like that. Paper, they're great. I am not opposed to, when you have slides, to using these protectors. They're great because you can just put them up to the light and see exactly what the slide is. But like I said, they're non-archival. So if they're hot, if there's too much time, they will inevitably start to melt or cause issues for your slides. So I just typically use a slide box and just stack them all in here. It makes it less accessible to see what they actually are, but it's a better storage option than the plastic. In terms of photographs, how many people here have photographs they want to archive? Yeah, me too. So photographs are pretty actually easy to preserve. I think one of the main issues, does anybody have, I think we all have it, but remember these? Oh yeah. My mom spent hours and hours making these beautiful scrapbooks for me of my whole childhood, and then we had to rip them all apart and start all over again. These magnetic, even now it's stuck. They were great at the time. They're not holding up. Even 10 years later, you can see the acid is already eating away here. So if you have any scrapbooks like this, I hate to tell you, but you got to get them out of here immediately. Hopefully you already have. Hopefully you already know this. Yes? I do. So any emulsion issues that you have, so emulsion's the shiny side of your photo. There's this product called PEC 12. You can find it on Amazon. It's not expensive. It is very stinky. It's not toxic, but it does smell. I'll be honest with you, I use a mask a lot of times, especially in the archive, paper dust, mold, all that, or when I'm using PEC 12, just because I have an overactive nose, and this stuff is stinky. But it works great. I would highly suggest sampling it on something you don't love before you put it on something that you do love. Even photographs, I'm sure you all have eventually noticed, paper is totally different on photographs depending on when they were made. So a photograph from the 20s versus a photograph from the early 2000s, those early digital that we printed and they look terrible, that paper is totally different than the glossy paper that most photos are on. So just always, when you're using a new material or a new supply, sample it first on something that you don't mind getting ruined before you use it on your good stuff. But I've had great success with this, not only getting residue off of photos, but trying to get the sticky. It's a problem though, and sometimes you really have to weigh, do I take it off of this paper or am I gonna cause more damage by removing it? And unfortunately, that's just a in the moment decision. We've had issues where we've had scrapbooks from the 20s come in and they're glued on basically construction paper, and removing them would separate the photo completely. So I have to leave that paper on there. It's not ideal, but it's the way it goes. Also, another issue with photographs, how many of your photos are curling? So I call it flat training. We do this with any paper. These are great weights that we use in the archive. They're basically bean bags, but don't just go buy cornhole bean bags on Amazon. Those have dust in them, they off-gas, they're not archival at all. So these are archival, but to be perfectly honest with you, with photographs, if you just put them in a file folder and stick a book on top of them, you might have to wait a while. I've been flat training some things for a couple months now and they still need time. So, but it will eventually help them at the very least, because you don't want that curling on your photos. Any other questions about photos? That was a great question. Yes?
So is that file folder acid-free?
It is. So this I did not buy at Office Depot. This came through Gaylord. These are available on Amazon. And it will say acid-free. Yeah.
So if you don't have a acid-free folder, can you put the photo in between two acid-free paper and then put it in the photo to...
You can, as long as it's not your permanent storage, you can.
Okay.
Yes, yeah, yeah. Any other questions? Okay, sweet. All right, we're gonna move into a very controversial topic. This might divide the room. It's the great glove debate. How many people think it is best practice to wear cotton gloves, like Nick Cage in National Treasure? Yeah, you're wrong, sis. No. Thank you for being my fault. Yeah. I know we all want to live our National Treasure dream and wear our white gloves and go bounce around the archive. No, that is not best practices. I actually have a no glove policy. I know, it's crazy. It actually turns out that especially white gloves can cause far, far more damage because you lose the sensitivity in your fingers. And so the possibility of you causing more damage to that piece goes up. I do no gloves, bare hands, Dawn soap. I know, it sounds fake, it sounds cheesy, it's real. It strips all the grease and oils off of your hands because it's that grease and oil that stays on those objects that's gonna cause the damage. Strips it all off so you can use your bare hands. You need to wash your hands about once an hour if you're doing this. So, because your oils eventually will start building back up. So if you just wash your hands with Dawn once an hour, you can go gloveless. I do wear gloves when it's objects, such as metal specifically, because that patina is very, very sensitive, and over time it will change color if you handle it. So I do use gloves for that, or I use gloves if I feel like the object's gonna hurt me. If it's moldy, if it's dusty, anything like that, I will wear gloves. And I recommend the nitrile gloves. You can get them anywhere. They're pretty cheap. They last forever, and they're great. They're very, very thin, so they allow you to really understand where your fingers are, so you're less likely to cause damage. But yeah, I'm a no-glove girl. I just, don't want to cause that damage. Is that new information to anybody, or does everybody know that? Ah, sweet. All right. Also, cleaning or other options. Microfibers are great. I use these on photographs all the time to clean. I think they're easy. You can wash them in the washing machine and go about your day. Dust is like a major issue when it comes to paper. I don't think we think about how much dust paper actually produces until we start looking at older stuff, and then we know. Any other questions? No? Anybody here have any textiles or fabrics that they're thinking about saving? Okay. So one of the most important things about preserving our objects is not only the actual piece, but why you're preserving it in the first place. So in the museum world, we call that provenance. It's the life of the piece. It's when it was born, who made it, every owner through its time up until you, and then continuing on. Museums and your family members don't know your history. They're not in your brain. I fall for it all the time. I think, well, I know it, so, it'll be fine. I don't write it down. I go on vacation. Things go wrong. So many times museums get pieces where we have absolutely no idea the history of it, and that's where that value word comes in. A piece can be more valuable when we know the history of it. So your memories connected to what you want to preserve is incredibly important. When we're talking about textiles, I think it's really important to tag them. Photos, it's easy to put a label on a box. But I love these paper tags. They come with just the, that string. But again, we're not doing metal, right? So how do we connect them? Just sew it on. Just 2 little stitches, super easy to take out of any fabric, will cause minimal to no damage. And it's a much better option than putting a safety pin or anything like that on your pieces. So I always just suggest just a simple stitch. And let's see, what else with textile? There's just so much I want to tell you. Also with textiles, there's great tissue paper. I always suggest rolling, not folding fabric. If you lay it out, put that archival tissue paper on top, roll it up, and then store it. That's a much better way to do it than just folding it. Folding anything, paper, fabric, anything like that is going to cause damage. And ideally, the way we do it is we have these bars, and we hang all the textiles and stuff on bars. But I know that's not ideal. And also, if you're doing any clothes, archiving any clothes or anything like that, collars or folds are a problem. So we use what we call polyfill, which is basically that stuff you put in between quilts when you make a quilt, just that stuffing. That stuff is great. That's totally archival. I know that sounds crazy because it's just like a bag of plastic, but it actually works great. We put polyfill and just put it in around any collar so that it'll lay down over that polyfill instead of falling on itself or folding. So that's another easy tip for that kind of stuff. What else? What else is there to archive, Gwen? What do you have?
I was concerned with photos because I got those old photo albums. They're really stuck.
Yeah.
Can I ask a question?
Sure.
About the little smelly.
The Smelly Peck 12? Yes. Oh, great question. Where did I do with them? Here they are. I use these swabs. They're basically like Q-tips, but they're not as linty. Q-tips can get really linty if you use them. These are on Amazon too. They're literally just called like, what are they? I think it's literally just like wipes. Cleaning swab stick. There you go. Just put that in Amazon, you'll get it. And they're great. They're almost like microfibers, but they're Q-tips. And you can get them in different sizes. These are the bigger ones. And I use these for PEC 12. Oh, yeah. Oh, I don't know if you can read that. Can you read that? Yeah, yeah. But these are great. So I use these instead of Q-tips. Q-tips can work, but then you're going to be using tweezers picking off linty stuff. So I use this for the PEC 12. Good question. I forgot about my swabs. How'd you know that? Sister intuition. Yes. Oh, seeds. Oh man. All right. I'm not an organic archivist, though that I should be. I don't know. I do know that they need the same conditions as a lot of other things: cool, dry, dark space. But seeds inevitably do have a lifespan, just like any other living thing. It depends on the type of plant. Some seeds last longer than others. So that part I don't know. I hate to say Google, but yeah. But yeah, it is specific to the type of plant. Yeah.
I want to archive my brother's PlayStation.
Oh, great. Oh, this is a good question. Okay, so electronics or anything like that, you need to prep it. Take the batteries out. Oh, I fell for that once. I had a fabulous camera. I was going to keep it forever. It was my grandfather's. I left the batteries in it. It's still a great object, but it's no longer usable. And that's just... the corrosion hit me. So always take the batteries out, unplug everything. Don't leave anything plugged in. Wrap those, roll those wires. Don't do the fold and tie. Roll everything. And then just make sure you get it in a box, any archival box, and that'll work just fine. To the batteries? Oh, to archive a PlayStation? See? Yeah, I do say that is the first time I got seeds and a PlayStation, but I think one of the cool things about doing these workshops is I'm always fascinated to find what's valuable to people. Like what am I going to spend my time like caring for? And I think that's awesome. I think that's a great one. Yeah. Oh yeah, okay. See, this is where we're teetering into conservation. She has leather moccasins with beadwork that may or may not have bug damage. So leather is incredibly tricky, right? Because it's organic as well. It's an organic material. I'm going to have to look that one up. Yeah, I don't know. Especially how stiff is the leather? Oh, okay, that's good. Well, if it's not too stiff, then you got some wiggle room on them. The way we would store those, I worked at Gilcrease, and so we had a lot of Native American artifacts in our collection. The way we would store it is we would use ethafoam. This is ethafoam. You can get it on Amazon. You can get it in all types of widths. So this is obviously an incredibly thin ethafoam. I recommend... it's ETHAFOAM. Ethafoam. Yeah. Yeah, thank you. Not a speller. Our dad owned a restaurant, and when I was in elementary school in the spelling bee, I spelled kitchen wrong. Yeah, the kitchen was in the name of our restaurant. So I am not a speller. So you can get this ethafoam in all different thicknesses. You can get it this thick. And what we do, especially for really special things, is you can take a hot knife to that ethafoam, cut out a space, like say for those moccasins, and stick that inside there so it's incredibly secure in there. In California, obviously, earthquakes are a huge issue. So a lot of their collections on their shelves, they have ethafoam, thick ethafoam on every shelf, and they cut down and secure every piece in that ethafoam to make sure that it's not going to fall off a shelf when shaking happens. So that's a really good way to secure stuff. Ethafoam is a great material. I use this thin. I just line the shelves at TFA, the metal shelves, and put things on top of it, especially wood, metal, any like sculpture. I make sure that it's on top of ethafoam. It's just another cushion safety precaution, and it's acid-free. Anything else? Any other exciting things you guys want to archive? Yes? Oh, that sounds beautiful. She has a bamboo wallet. That sounds amazing. I've never worked with bamboo before. Again, an organic material, so eventually you're going to have some issues with it. I don't know, and you would want to look this up. Same with leather and same with wood. Sometimes you need to treat it occasionally to ensure that it doesn't stiffen up and get too dry. So you might want to check out if there's any oils or anything like that that you need to put on it just to ensure, especially since a wallet is constantly folding and unfolding, to make sure that you can keep that fold safe. Anything else? Yeah. Just a metal bar. Yeah. Metal is great because it doesn't, all plastic off gases, which just means over time, eventually, there's going to be some chemical leakage. That's not like a scary thing. It's not everything's radioactive. But it is something to consider. Paint does the same. Most metals don't. Most metals are safe enough, secure enough that it's not going to put anything out there that's going to harm something that's fragile like paper or fabric. No. I wouldn't use glass just because I'm a clumsy person. Like, that's just fact. Like, so much of archiving is just making sure that, like, you're creating a safe environment, a stable environment. Yeah, and those work fine. Wood, again, organic, so eventually it's going to get dry, it's going to split. It could potentially, put splinters in your fabric. But that's very long-term thinking about that. But yeah, wood is fine for temporary, yeah.
I was just thinking, I have some wood shelves, and I want to put something on them so you can actually see it.
Yeah.
What should you put on the shelf?
That's exactly right. So if you're putting, I do say, so in the museum world, there's two extremes, and I represent the everything should be in a dark room and no one should see it, or it's going to last forever, versus the curator who says, education is important, public program is important. How valuable is this piece if nobody knows it exists or it's alive? So I am the one that's speaking for the object. It's my job to say, no, it has to be this way, while the curator says this. And then we find somewhere in the middle, which has, beautiful, then you get your exhibitions. So for things that you want to archive, it's important to you. It doesn't have to be in an off-site storage space or in your closet. You can have it out and enjoy it as long as you know to keep it safe. So if you want to put an object on especially painted wood, but any wood, any shelf like that, I recommend Mylar, M-Y-L-A-R. It's basically like that transparency our teachers used on projectors when we were in school. And it's just basically a thin plastic. It is archival. It comes in all sorts of ways. It comes in giant rolls, comes in tiny. And all I would do is just put the object on it, roughly trace, cut out a piece of Mylar, stick it under. It'll ensure no paint transfer gets on that object. The only thing you want to be careful about with Mylar is if it's going to slip. How stable is that actual object? So we do use something called museum putty often. And this is basically, it's a putty. It's like an adhesive that sticks the object to whatever shelf it's holding on, and it doesn't cause any damage to it. Museums use this all the time. It's museum quality. I would not say it is a permanent thing. I wouldn't have it on my object for 10 years, but if you are concerned about that vase slipping off of that shelf, this is a great product to use.
Okay, I have, well, my dad has, about 13 ivory pieces that my grandmother bought in the 30s.
Beautiful.
Cannot, so is that, my dad has them on display. Is this the quick hold, they all have wooden bases. Would that be okay to put near the ivory or no?
That's a good question. She's asking if this would be good to you, this museum putty.
Yeah, just because he has a glass, a curio with all,
Yeah.
with all the pieces.
I don't. How long have they been in there and they haven't slipped?
My grandmother had them on displays and moved them all over the country, but she made sure that they were well stacked. But my dad's had them out on his curio for a couple of years. They were in storage for.
Interesting. I don't know if you'll need it, but I don't know. I don't know about wood. I don't know.
Well, and there are some of the ivory pieces that don't have wood, so it would go directly. Like, should we put that on a piece of?
So ivory is porous.
Right.
So I probably wouldn't use this.
Okay.
Glass, things like that, yes. But since ivory's so porous, I wouldn't take the chance, I think. Yeah.
In my family, my great grandma had a headband that's metal and a bunch of beads and stuff, and every woman wears it in their wedding.
Oh, wow.
Kind of passed around a lot, so we need to store it really safely in between years, but then it travels around the country. I don't know what's happening to it with everyone else's hands.
Yep. Yeah. Well, okay, yeah, handling. Yeah, so she has a fabulous family heirloom that gets passed to every woman, and they wear it in their wedding, which means a lot of people are handling it, and it's traveling, and that's going to cause risk to anything. I would get this box and tissue paper, and just tissue paper all around it. And tissue paper, the joy of it is you can make it as tight or as loose as you need to make sure that it's secure in there, and it's not going to cause any pressure to actually hurt that piece. And not tissue paper from Hobby Lobby or like archival tissue paper. There is a difference. So that, the gift tissue paper we have, the colors and all that, those colors bleed. So don't use that tissue paper. Use archival tissue paper. Yeah, of course. Anybody else? You guys have some good stuff. Yes.
Do you have any favorite stories about finds from the archive that you found organizing?
Oh my. Any favorite finds? Yeah. Okay. A couple weeks ago, I found original photographs of the construction of Circle Cinema, which was really cool. Yeah, those were really amazing. In terrible condition, though. It was actually the piece I had to consider, do I take these off of the paper or do I let them be? And they're the ones being flat trained right now. But yeah, the joy of hanging out in a basement all day is that I do get to find all these amazing treasures. Yep. I want to end by talking to you guys about provenance just a little bit more and just tell you how important it is to write down your stories and to write down your memories and to write down why this piece is important to you, because that matters. And I promise you, someone in the future is going to want to know that information. So, my talk can be kind of technical, can be kind of material heavy, but what we're talking about is some of the most precious things to us in our life. So just know that those memories and what it means to you is just as important as that object as itself. So I'll end it with that. I'm happy to answer any questions you guys have afterwards, but thank you so much for coming, and tell everyone what archiving is.
Should have started walking up here sooner. Thank you again. That, for a topic that on the surface could sound dry,
Boring?
perhaps,
Yeah,
you
super
brought so
boring.
much to it.
Oh, good.
So thank you. So next week on September 14th, 10 a.m., I Can't Drum with the Bart. It's going to be super fun, drumming workshop. Definitely register for that one because there's only so many instruments to go around. And then at 11 a.m., I Can't Improv with Third Space Tulsa. Do not worry, it is not scary. Nobody's going to point at you and be like, you, tell a joke now, okay? They're going to be fun, icebreaker, improv type exercises. So we'd love to see you back for both of those. Take some time and look at the art before you leave. Have a great weekend. And one more round of applause for our partner, Tulsa Foundation for Architecture. Thank you.
And Gwen, thanks